Hello and welcome to episode 267 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. Well, hello podcast listeners. Happy Wednesday or whatever day you're listening to this on. It is another solo with me. I must apologise. You've had me for 3 weeks straight now. And I'll absolutely level with you. I have just been insanely busy. I'm working really hard on the book. I'm doing loads of interviews for the book. I've taken on 3 quite large projects over the last month, and I am just a little bit time short for interviews, but I am reaching out, I am making those connections, I am trying to get some amazing interviews in for you in the very, very near future. But I've always got loads of stuff to talk to you about. I've got things to share, things I think might help you. So we're using this concentrated time as an opportunity to just talk about a few things. And today, I want to start by asking you a question, which is quite a simple one, which is, are you happy where you are? Not geographically, because you can be very happy in yourself and be in a bit of a dodgy area, but are you happy with where you are in your life, in your work, in your free time, in your personal time, with your career? Are you happy with where you are and where you want to be? And it's a question that is obviously a very deep one. And I don't necessarily want you to think of happiness meaning you're going around singing a tune, dancing away, clicking your heels, although I've never been able to do that, smiling all the time. I mean that kind of proper happiness, not that fleeting emotion we feel for a split second, that true happiness that, you wake up in the morning, you're keen for the day, you are content, you are just kind of joyful in your soul without going a bit, weird or woo-woo on you. But that proper deep down happiness, not that superficial smiley face, but quiet, but sort of very down behind the eyes. True happiness. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. It's important that we continually assess this because stuff changes, life changes, opportunities present themselves, we learn more, and that then makes us think of different things, makes us look for different things, means that when we've perhaps expanded our comfort zones, we've gone into our stretch zone, we're excited by what's in our stretch zone. What we previously were happy and content doing now just doesn't hit the same, and that's fine. I think what isn't fine is when we don't acknowledge that, when we don't realise that, and when we then either kid ourselves or, kid ourselves to think that that's all fine. I think it's a strange one because sometimes if you have really aimed for something for a long time, you've worked really hard and you've achieved it, we sometimes have this strange idea that we should be happy. We set the goal, we achieve the goal, great, we are done. But that is not how life works. It's certainly not how I'm wired. And it's not how lots of people, well, everyone, I'm trying to think now of someone that breaks this exception, but is wired. It's not how we work. Something can make us happy for a long time. And then all of a sudden, or maybe not all of a sudden, maybe it's a gradual thing. You just start to think, you know what, this just doesn't feel quite right. And it's something that I hear from a lot of people. Obviously, I speak to a lot of people, and a lot of people I work with in lots of different ways are, and talk to, friends, relatives, things like that. Everyone's on this journey, and sometimes the things that did used to serve us don't anymore. And there can be loads of reasons. It can be because your level of knowledge has increased, what you're able to do has improved. It could be that things have worked against you or not against you, but perhaps taken you off a course in a different direction. Perhaps you've had children and they have taken up a huge amount of your time, which you haven't regretted, but maybe now you feel like, actually, I'm not happy where I am. Maybe the kids have gone to school, for example, and you think, you know what, this isn't quite how I pictured it. or where I want to be, more importantly. Maybe you have been a caregiver. Maybe you have been focusing on different things for quite a long time. And now the kind of dust has settled, you think, this doesn't feel right. And sometimes it can be a feeling. It can just be a sort of discomfort, I want to say. Not uncomfortable, but just that kind of knowing. Just that little voice in your head. Just that slight, you're not quite comfortable. You're not quite where you should be, or you don't feel like you are. And that's what I'm talking about today. So I'd really love you, humour me, just to take a minute and just think about this. Think about if you are happy, if you are truly happy, if there is anything in your life that you would want to improve or change or take a closer look at, because we really do only get one shot at this. And it's okay for things to change. That is life. And we also have the power to make these changes. Now, I mentioned earlier that I've been spending a lot of time working on my book, which I'm really excited about. And part of this is I've been interviewing quite a lot of fabulous people. I've been doing a lot of research into these brilliant people as well. And I've been so lucky with who I've spoken to so far and who I'm due to speak to. And I have just been in awe of the transformations that these people have made in their lives, how they've gone from one situation to another and what that's taken them to do it. These are people who have changed career paths, have started businesses at all different ages, from all different backgrounds. And I want to say to you today, if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, what she's saying is feeling like it could be that she's talking to me, that there's a little bit of you that's going, yeah, this might be worth listening to. The first thing I want to say is that don't use age as a barrier. I think that's something that so many people do. They think it's too late, too old, this and this. The stories I've heard and the things I've read over the last, I don't even know how many months, prove that this is not the case. There's some brilliant stories about the age that amazing people have started businesses, done something incredible. So don't think it's too late for you. It's not. Whatever age you are listening to this now, if there is air in your lungs, you can make changes to put yourself more on track with where you feel you want to be. And we do this by good old reverse engineering. That's one way of doing it. And this is what I spend quite a lot of time doing when I'm plotting things, when I'm working with people on projects. I do a lot of reverse engineering. I was saying to someone the other day, look, like everyone's got their kind of superpower. I can eat a lot of chocolate and not make myself ill, which is 100% a superpower. But I think, without blowing my own trumpet, I am pretty strong at reverse engineering. And I can also expand ideas very quickly. There's this, I'm not sure if you've seen the Sherlock that was on BBC One with Benedict Cumberbatch. He had this mind map thing that kind of popped up when he was thinking about things. Now, I don't quite have one that's as beautifully drawn as that, but I can see stuff and how it links, and I can kind of put things together very quickly. So for me, this is right up my street. Now, if that isn't you, that's fine, because I'm here to help you today. We are going to work on this together, because actually it's quite a simple process. I think because I've been doing it for so long, the speed that I can do it at and the speed I can operate on different things is quite interesting for some people. I mean, I love it. It's kind of my special skill. And the chocolate, obviously. But it's all really simple. It's simple steps that you can achieve too. And I've got an example for you who has very kindly said I can share their example. And that is my husband, Lol, who edits this podcast. And he was very happy that I shared his story, because he was in a situation where his job, he works for himself, but his job wasn't quite doing what he wanted it to do. He likes his job. He works with lovely customers, but it wasn't really lighting them up, I guess, would be the right way to say it. And we can get into this rut, I think we've all been there, where we're doing something and we're just doing it because we've always done it. It's not difficult to do. It seems the right thing to do at the time, but it's just missing the mark. And we were talking about this at length, quite a bit actually. And I was saying, well, what would you like to do in a perfect world? If you could snap your fingers, what would you do? And he started to talk about how he actually trained to be an outdoor education instructor initially. And worked at a local centre, helped a variety of different people with outdoor skills. So things like climbing, abseiling, high ropes, these kind of things where often children go to outdoor education centres. It's a really good thing for confidence building, team building. It pushes people outside their comfort zones. It teaches them new skills. Like the outdoors generally is such an incredible place to teach and to learn and to expand your horizons and understand yourself more. And he was saying how much he missed that. And I said, well, why can't you do that now? Like, what is stopping you from doing something now, doing something connected to the teaching you used to do, the work you used to do? And I'll level with you, he was very negative about it. He said, I've even written some things down here. He said that it wasn't possible, that he couldn't just go and be a freelance instructor because he didn't necessarily want to be employed full time by somebody, because he's still got his other customers from his business that he does enjoy working with. But, that's not necessarily a business he would want to scale because he just didn't sit well with him. So we're talking about, well, could you be freelance? Oh, no, that doesn't exist. Okay, great. Why do we know that doesn't exist? Oh, it never has done before. Okay, how long ago are we using this as our reference point? I think it was about 15, 20 years. Okay, great. Right, excellent. So it was a case of really challenging all these preconceptions that were coming up. So it wasn't possible came up. He was too old. There was no one had freelance instructors. That wasn't a thing that was done. Oh gosh, what else was there? There were Lowell, when he was working in the outdoors previously, had a lot of different qualifications to do with the outdoors, but because his works changed, they weren't necessarily up to date. And that was definitely going to be an issue. And we talked this all through, and everything I was being met with was negative, and everything needed challenging. So my qualifications are out of date, therefore they're useless. Well, is that actually the case? Qualifications do expire, but there are routes that you can either go and redo them, or you can get them back, or you can take a refresher course. There are things that you can do. No one works with these kind of people. No one works with freelance instructors. Well, okay. Could they though? How would you find out whether or not that preconception is true? So, and this did take a bit of time to go through. I'm not going to say it's just a magic thing, because what you do need to do is, if you're having these thoughts, start challenging your preconceptions. When you say, oh, it's too, it's not, it's this. Is that based on actual fact that you have researched recently from a reputable source and and perhaps more than one reputable source? Have you called a few people? Have you read a few articles? Have you researched a few things that have backed up that? Are there any exceptions to the rule that go in your favour? This could take you a while. This is not necessarily, you sit down one day and you think, right, I'm going to change my life, and 2 seconds later you're done. It might happen like that for you, but it might also be a much slower burn. And that's fine, because actually the moment you acknowledge that your situation could be better and you start to take any positive step, generally people start to feel better. They start to feel like they are more in control of their path and where they're going. And that can be hugely empowering and motivating and exciting, and can kind of give you that momentum to do that research, to do the legwork. So we had these preconceptions we were dealing with, and we challenged them all. Asked a lot of questions. and we challenged them all. And after a lot of talking, research, it was decided, I say we, it wasn't we, it was definitely Lol, but it was decided really that perhaps calling a few centres would be a good shout, just to get some information. So to call a few outdoor centres, fairly locally, and they're not sort of just on the doorstep, but fairly locally, and just see if this is something, do they work with freelance instructors? If they do, how does that work? What qualifications do they need to have? Do they have their own training programs on site? How does it work? What qualifications are fundamental to this role? Now, the first one he called was a hard no. No, that's not how they do things. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, come on, people, throw me a bone. Because logically, it is something that either exists, or even what you sometimes need is someone to say, no, that doesn't exist, but have you considered this? Or someone to point you in the right direction. But if I remember rightly, the first person that Lol called was not that person at all. It was very, no, not a thing. Ugh. However, thank God, he called a second one. I think he had a list of 3 actually. And the second person was delightful. They were helpful, they were nice, they were positive, and they acknowledged that not only did that thing exist, but that thing existed where they worked, which was exciting. So then at that point, quite a few of your preconceptions have got a hole in them, because whether or not there's that opportunity for you at that place, you know that the thing that you're after is possible, achievable, and people have it. So from that, he called them, spoke to a really nice chap who went to visit them. And whilst he was visiting them, they discussed what he would need to work there. The qualifications he had were useful, but actually they had a different training system as well. He definitely needed to have a current first aid course and a few other things I can't quite remember, but they were all very achievable. They were a long weekend course, or they were, things that you could do online, or they were things you could do on site. And they were very achievable, and he went off and did them. There wasn't a huge financial outlay to do them. I think it was, there was a bit, but nothing crazy. It wasn't like having to kind of cash in your life savings or sell a kidney. It was very, very achievable. And then from that, when he got that kind of first step, he was invited to go there for training, which he did. And now at the moment, he's working there 3 days a week. It's obviously quite seasonal because of the kind of work it is, and it does very much vary. So it's not 3 days a week every week. It's, very variable. But he absolutely loves it. And it has kind of given him renewed vigour for his other business as well, for the other stuff that he does. It's helped challenge lots of things. And I think when you do these kind of things as well, it's not just a case of X was the problem and Y fixes it. It also gives you that knowledge that you are able to control your own destinies. If you want to take a stab at something else, if you want to learn something else, if you want to do something else, you did it. It is well within your power. Sometimes it's not even comfortable because it's not a comfort thing, but we just get into a rut, like a real rut it's hard to get out of. And when we start to make these steps, it is like someone has put that ladder down, or you have found that ladder and you've stood it up against the side of your rut, and you are taking those little steps to get out. And it is little steps. All of the big things you see are a series of tiny, tiny steps. And one can be simply researching something and dropping someone an email. Now, I would say, don't be disheartened when people don't email you back, because in the course of getting these interviews for my book, I cannot tell you how many people haven't responded to me, or worse still, have wasted my time for a couple of months. But that's not a podcast for now. That's a different thing. So don't get despondent if people don't message you back. Not everybody will, but you don't need everybody to. You need that one person who can share a little bit of something that takes you on the next step of your journey. towards what you want to achieve. And that is the beauty of the reverse engineering thing, is that you need to think hard about what goal you're trying to achieve. And this could be like a massive goal, changing your life, starting a new business, doing big things. Or it could be a small goal. It could be that you've always wanted to learn a particular skill or do a particular thing. That's fine. If that's going to align with you being in a better place, because usually as well, if we're in a better place in one place, if we're happier in one area of our life, we're probably happier in other areas. If we are miserable as sin in one area, the chances of that kind of seeping through to other areas is greatly increased. I find anyway. And it's like when I do coaching and mentoring, I was speaking to someone a little while ago, could have been on the course actually. And the thing is, you mentor the person, you look at their business, but actually a lot of it is this personal development. And this is what this is. This is personal development, but it's however you want to take it. Don't be constrained by what you think personal development should be. It's how you develop personally. That's it. It's that easy. So don't feel like you've got to fit a particular mold or do a particular thing, because you don't. And what is really exciting is that it's all completely in your control. You are the one who can do this. If you want to sit quietly with a pen and paper, tea, coffee, definitely biscuits, regardless of whether you have tea or coffee and biscuits, and just think, if you didn't have any limiting factors, if you could do whatever you wanted, if you were guaranteed success, what would make you happy? Put all the other rubbish to one side, because to be honest, that's not going to help you. What would make you happy? And don't think of something like, winning the lottery. But why would that thing that you can't control make you happy? What would you do with that? Getting a new job, being, the this of this. Why would that make you happy? Or if that isn't possible, what could you do that is possible that would tick the same boxes? I'd love your thoughts on this. It's a deep one, but I think it's an important one. And it's one that I think we all need to remember to ask ourselves regularly. Sometimes we get swept away with things. Other times we feel we're in a rut and we can't do anything about it. But the beauty is we can do something about it. This doesn't mean you phone your boss tomorrow and tell them to screw their job. You can make small little changes to change your overall outcome. You don't have to just go, no, we're done with this. Again, I think sometimes we feel like we have to make these huge changes in a dramatic fashion. In actual fact, that's not the case at all. We don't have to do that. If, for example, you are looking to change your career, to upskill, to do something else, you can do that alongside your normal life, a normal job. It will take you more time. It will be slower, but you can do it. It might be that you snatch those moments when you're out walking the dog, when you're driving in the car to listen to a useful audiobook or a podcast, or when you're on the train, you make some phone calls, or at your lunch hour, you go for a walk and you do some research, or you go sit quietly in the corner and do some research towards what you want to achieve. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can just be looking for these windows, these chunks of time that you can use to effectively move you in the right direction and make you happier, let's be honest, because that is what life is all about. I'm going to leave you with that thought, hopefully. I really hope it's helped you. It's really rewarding when you see this happen in other people, particularly if you just ask a few questions and you've helped along the way, all the better. But it's the biggest, selfishly, it's the biggest buzz when you see someone who isn't happy, who just wants more, wants something different, and they start to take that action and they understand that path and they go from that, that point of just really not feeling it to being really happy, really excited and really proactive in chasing their dream and putting the things in place to make it happen. It's an utter game changer and you can do it too. Now, just before I love you and leave you, I am going to give a shout out to the book, Small and Supercharged. It is on Amazon. I had a look actually a few days ago and I've got 2 more lovely reviews on there, which I am going to screenshot and share to stories. but I might just read them out to you now, because I was really, really chuffed to see them. If you haven't got the book, pop on over to Amazon, and if you just search Small and Supercharged or my name, it should come up. I'm very proud of it. It's a good book. It's all about how to supercharge your brand on a budget. I'm very proud of it, and I had some lovely comments and reviews. Now, the last two came in, I was going to say last month, but actually that's not entirely accurate, because this is October now, which is just crazy to me, but it is the case. So let's have a look at these last two reviews. Now, one that came in, these were both last month, was from Lily. Thank you, Lily, if you're listening. I don't know your surname. And Lily says, she gave me 5 stars, which I love. I love a 5-star review. If you want to make my day, please do give me a 5-star review and leave a nice comment on the Amazon website. It all makes so much sense. Really helpful book, and one I feel I can dip in and out of continuously, even after reading it in full, to keep going back to remind myself of what I can be doing. Lots of helpful advice to put into practice. And another August review from Laura Cairns. Thank you, Laura. Said, before spending hundreds or thousands on marketing your business, read this. The author details how to market your business in the best possible way, without using unfamiliar jargon and without boring the reader, and without the need to go out of pocket in the process. It's well written, highly readable, filled with practical tips, and worth every penny. Well, Laura might be one of my favourite people in the whole world. But I'm very, very grateful for both of those lovely reviews. Thank you so much. You can read them on Amazon, and you can also get the book there. Thank you very, very much. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, and I will see you next week. Take care.